Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host,
Brett Gilland.
Brett Gilland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilland. Today I've got Lauren Fields with me. Lauren, how you doing?
Hi, Brett. Doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We connected via a Jesse Itzler coaching deal that we were both a part of and on. And so now here we are in a podcast. It's amazing how fast you can make some things happen, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. What part of the country are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from San Diego, California.
Nice. 72 and sunny still there every day? Or I hear it's getting a lot hotter there.
Mostly the weather's getting a little moody. We're seeing a lot more rain and clouds, but I'm into it because growing up, I remember every day being 70 and sunny. So it's throwing us for a loop, but I can't complain.
Awesome. Well, you are Lauren Fields, as I said, a life design strategist. You're a podcast host. You gave a TEDx speak, I think last October, or a speaker passionate about helping individuals design and live extraordinary lives. And so I'm excited to talk to you about that stuff today. But before we do that, Lauren, if you can, just kind of help us, what's made you the woman that you are today?
Sure, Brett. Thank you. I love that question because you go to so many factors, but if I were to start with high level, I would say life's most challenging moments, coupled with my obsession with personal development, have made me the woman that I am today.
I love that. So what did that obsession come from? Is that something from your parents? Did you grow up with that type of stuff, or how'd that happen?
Yeah, so I grew up with a half brother who's 20 years older than I am. And so I grew up essentially as an only child. I was the only kid in the household with my parents. They had me late. They had me at 44. Both worked full time. My mom was in finance. My father was in real estate. And so I was given a long leash as a child, and I developed a great sense of independence as a young girl. And I started riding horses when I was 6 years old. So when I think about resilience and personal development, I look back to starting this sport and the dedication it took to become an athlete and to compete at a really high level as an equestrian. And so that's really where I attribute my resilience, my hard work, my ability to overcome adversity and to keep getting back up whenever I would fall.
Yeah. So are you still riding horses today?
You know, I do when I can as a passion, but no longer competitively.
Yeah, there you go. And then also talk about, because I know it's a big part of your story, but you had an incident when you were 14, right? That I know that you are open about and really helping a lot of people with. So can you share some of that?
I can. So when I was 14, I was in a show jumping accident. I was life flighted out of the arena, woke up 3 days later from a coma, and was diagnosed with having a traumatic brain injury. At the time, I had no idea what that meant. I was 14 years old, and I was on a mission to walk out of that hospital. You know, the doctors had limiting beliefs about my future. May struggle with memory retention, may have difficulty walking, may have to relearn how to speak, may even become violent due to frustration with my circumstances. And I just said, this isn't going to be my story. And so I think for so long after that, I was on a mission to sweep that event under the rug and to prove that I was okay, to prove that I could do anything that I set my mind to. So I went on to study business in college, to enter the corporate arena in New York City. And during this time, I started to experience side effects from the traumatic brain injury, one of which was nerve damage from a blood spot on my brain. And this resulted in foot drop, which is a common neurological symptom from having a traumatic brain injury, where you have difficulty lifting your foot. And so it made walking really painful. And so there I was, sitting in different hospital waiting rooms, waiting on appointments, doing MRIs, x-rays, trying to figure out what the solution to this would be like. And in that moment, I was the girl who had lost her spark for life. And so I think my whole thing with personal development, personal growth has been, how do you get that back? And how can I use my story to help other people do the same? We'll get knocked down in life, but it's our choice whether or not we want to keep suffering or get back up.
So how do you get back up, right? Because you think about the dark hole. So there was obviously the event, right? The thing that happened, but the afterwards, right? When there's maybe not as much care, the lights aren't on anymore. How do you, to that listener right now, maybe dealing with something, and maybe it's not a TBI they're dealing with, but they're just dealing with something, right, in their life. How do you put your work boots back on and get back up and pull yourself out of those dark spots?
Yeah, I would say two things. Number one, I would say healing is nonlinear. So first of all, give yourself grace and give yourself grace and time to understand what you've been through. But number two, I would say no one's coming to save you. So you have to make the choice that you are ready to stop suffering and want better for yourself. And three things that I point out here, it comes down to mindset. So take an inventory of your thoughts and the way that you're thinking. Believe in yourself and your ability to improve or get better. Number two, start taking care of yourself. Self-care is so important. And number three is to have a vision for where you want things to go.
I love that. Mindset, self-care, have a vision. So when you say those three things, I'm going to pick out number two, for example, because you hear self-care, but what's that really mean? How do you define that, right? But what does that mean for you? So what's that look like? Is there day-to-day habits, rituals that you're doing, that you personally are doing, but then you're also helping other people with?
There are. So I actually studied for a health and wellness coaching certification at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And the biggest thing that I learned was bioindividuality. The same thing is not going to work for me as it does for you. And so you really have to find what works best for you. But I think my routines have helped me tremendously, and I share them with my clients in the hopes that they can take from them what they're called to do. But for me, routine is very important. So we can go into super detail here, but I think intention and gratitude are huge. And so each day I wake up and I immediately say, thank you, because this day is a gift. We're not promised a tomorrow. Say thank you, drink a full glass of water, and then I do a skincare routine. Then I have my decaf coffee. Sleep is super important to me, so I stop drinking caffeine to ensure I get a better night's sleep. And then I sit in front of my red light therapy panel for a meditation visualization exercise. I have EMDR meditation music playing in the background, and I sit in meditation each morning. Haven't looked at my phone. My phone sleeps in the kitchen. And I'm doing my meditation, and I'm just observing my thoughts as they pass on by, and I visualize the future that I am planning to create for myself. And I repeat positive affirmations, which are I am statements. So they're who you want to be, how you want to be feeling. For example, I am love, I am successful, I am light, I am abundant. And as I'm doing this, I'm flashing images of the future that I envision for myself. And so this is how I start each day before entering into external demands of other people or of the world. And it's been tremendous in what it has done for my focus and my efficiency throughout the day.
What time are you doing that?
I used to be the one who woke up around 5:30 and would rush out to get a intense, high-intensity workout in first thing in the morning. And I've changed the game a little bit. It was part of I'm studying right now for a master's in psychology. It was part of a behavioral change project where I wanted to instill more mindfulness in my life. And so I set out to implement, greater meditation and gratitude. And so now I let myself sleep in normally to around 6:30, 7 a.m. And then that practice begins.
Okay. That's first thing you do right there. So the intention, gratitude, I like the red light with meditation, visualization. And so is it the same statement? Like, do you physically hold a card and read that stuff, or do you have it all memorized now?
I have it all memorized.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you do something every single day, right? What you become, right, it's not going to be, so you were going to say something?
No, I mean, exactly what you're saying, Brett. When you have that vision for yourself and you break it down into actionable steps. So one of my steps is mindfulness, right? And so with this step, as soon as when you break the vision down into actionable steps and you start taking those steps, you're in the process of becoming or achieving whatever it is you want to be or achieve. And so it's doing these little repetitive, consistent actions each day that I think ultimately bring you closer to your goal.
Yeah. I think just the boring consistency of doing it, right? I mean, I say that's what I call it all the time, is that boring consistency is just showing up every day, doing it even when you don't want to. So even on the days, maybe it's not in San Diego, but if it's cold and rainy or whatever, and you just don't want to get up, how do you make yourself get up and do it?
I think the biggest thing that helps me, and I hope this can be helpful to the listeners as well, is what helps me is looking at my why, and it's reminding yourself, why am I doing this? And what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day if I don't do it? And when I think of the person that I want to become, and I look at my life at the end of this road and I look back, I want to be the woman who was devoted to becoming the best version of herself and who was in the arena doing all the things she felt called to do, and not the one wishing that she had.
Yeah. Regret, right? I was talking about regret weighs ounces, discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. Yeah, you don't want to have that stuff. You don't want to wake up one day and be like, I should have done this, or I should have done that. And so, but how do we transform our dreams into reality? I think a lot of people maybe have dreams, but they don't know how to take those steps. So obviously you get your self-care stuff there, but then what's it like from a work day? What's that like for you?
Sure. So I think vision and structure are so important here. So you have the vision, you have your dream, write it down. There's a percentage we are more likely, and I want to say it's around 40% more likely to achieve our goals if we write them down. So crystallize that vision or dream on paper, and then break it down into little steps. And then each day, make sure you're doing something that's moving the needle in your business or just towards your goal, whether it's reaching out to a new contact. I know we both follow Jesse Itzler, and one thing that he has said before is we're one meeting, connection, or conversation away from a completely different life. So often we can feel stuck, but it's through just one small action that our life can completely change. So experiment with dancing with fear a little bit each day by reaching out to someone, by maybe posting a video, sharing something you're interested in, but do something each day that challenges you and stay committed to the bigger picture.
Yep. Love that. The big picture, but then it's also knowing what the big picture is, right? So how does that process, how do you do that? How do you define those things? Like you said earlier, your visualization, you can kind of do a movie, if you will, in your mind on what that looks like. So are you picturing yourself like at this second home? Are you picturing yourself walking into a business meeting? Like what does that look like for you? And how do we define that big picture?
Sure. I think it starts with defining what success means to you. And again, that's going to be different for everyone. So this portion of my life, for example, I set a word for 2024. My word for 2024 was action. And I actually, on New Year's Eve, I went down to the pier in Oceanside, California, and I decided to make a video asking individuals what their word was for 2024. You would be shocked how many couldn't think of a word, had never even thought of something like this. And it just got me realizing that individuals maybe aren't being intentional, but they don't maybe realize the power that intention has on being able to achieve your goals or design the life that you want for yourself.
Yeah. It's funny.
For me, you have to get,
No, go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you asked me, what does that look like for me? For me right now, my word is action. And it's because I'm building my coaching business, recently started a podcast, looking to do more speaking engagements. So for me, the images that I'm seeing in my meditation practice are walking onto a stage with a big audience, interviewing or being on podcasts such as this one, and feeling what that would feel like, seeing the vision, and then executing and doing things that are going to help make these visions a reality.
That's awesome. Isn't that great to think about the stuff that you're thinking about? And now here we are doing this. So it's pretty awesome. What then does your exercise routine look like?
So I'm someone who likes variety. I like to mix it up. I aim to move my body for 30 minutes every day. Occasionally, I'll take a day or two off a week. But that could look something like even just a 30-minute walk around the neighborhood. It doesn't have to mean a HIIT workout every day. But I'd give you an example of what a week looks like for me would be 2 reformer Pilates classes, a high intensity workout, a yoga flow, a beach walk, and a walk around the neighborhood, and then maybe some stretching. Yeah. But I'd aim to do 30 minutes every day. They say, if people come in with depressive symptoms, start out by trying to move your body for 30 minutes every day, and then come back and let us know if you've seen a change in your mood, because movement can be so beneficial for elevating your being.
Yeah, I mean, it's just action begets action, right? And you said that's your word of the year. That's one of our words for the circuit of success. Action is one of those. And I think that so many times you get great ideas and people have great business plans, but then they just fail to go take action. And so how do you build the fear, or not the fear, how do you build the courage to get over the fear, to take the action, to make the phone call, to ask for the business that you want to have? How do you do that?
The answer is just by doing and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. I want to read you one of my favorite quotes by Amelia Earhart. She says, "The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is mere tenacity. The fears are paper tigers. You can do anything you decide to do. You can act to change and control your life and the procedure. The process is its own reward."
I love that. I love that. And how often are you reading that to yourself?
I brought this one out because I was thinking of the circuits of success and what makes someone successful. And I think it is the ability to take deliberate action in the face of fear, because we can't predict what's going to happen on the other side of us taking action, but it's sure going to get us a lot further than doing nothing. And so you don't have to do anything. You can wait around saying you want all of these things to happen for you and you have all these dreams. And then you don't have to act. You don't have to. But if you want to turn those dreams into reality, the quickest and most proven successful way to do so is to act, to start taking action.
Amen to that. Yeah, and that's exactly right, because I was that way. I had a great first year in the business that I was in, 23 years ago, and then a terrible year the second year. And I was like, okay, how do I keep this success? And we all define success in our own way. And the action was the one thing that I was missing. I was just like, I just thought some talent would take you places, but you got to work your ass off, and you got to go out and take the action, and you got to do it. Yeah. And then the more you do it, the bigger your comfort zone gets. And then all of a sudden now that thing that you thought was hard is not hard, but it's big, but you've had to do it 150 times before it becomes a little bit easier, right? And then by the 500th time, it's really easy.
Yeah, flex that action muscle, get comfortable doing the uncomfortable. For a long time, I was a lifelong student. I kept racking up different coaching certifications, began studying for a master's in psychology, was calling myself a coach, but I wasn't sharing my knowledge. I wasn't taking action to actually get clients or actually help people because I was afraid to start. Yeah. And so many of us get comfortable being forever students, and we have so much knowledge inside of us that could help others, but it's selfish of us not to share that. And so start taking action, start little steps, whether it's sharing your idea with one person, asking someone to work with you, asking for someone's thoughts on what it is you're doing, and then it'll become easier. But I think that first step, the taking action, is the hardest. And then once you get going, you'll be presented with new information and experiences, and that momentum will help you keep going. Yeah.
And I think that we all have that self-defeating thinking that we can talk to ourselves, right? So maybe you do it in the morning, some during the day, sometimes, who knows? It's at night when you're trying to go to bed. And I think I've learned where I have to talk trash to that thing and tell that guy to shut up, because I'm not going to listen to you because I know what you're trying to do. But I think you also have to go public and just do it. Like, so I'm starting this members only experience here in our building, just right over here to my right. And it's been overwhelming, the amount of people that want to be involved in this, right? So we're going to have these members, and there's going to be speaker series, and there's going to be, food, all this different stuff involved with this. And it's amazing, but there's that part of you that's like, what do you do? You've never done this before. Like, why would you do this? Like, who are you, right? But you can't do that. And so how do you get through the self-defeating thinking to make it happen?
Yeah. So this is like imposter syndrome, right? Like, why me? Why do I have credibility to do this? Why would people want to be part of this if I'm doing it? You've never done this before. We can call it the backseat driver, the words inside of our head, the voice inside of our head. one of my favorite scientists and lecturers is Joe Dispenza, and he has a TV show on Gaia Network called Rewired, and it's all about how to rewire your subconscious mind. And he was hit by a car and told he was never going to walk again. And through retraining his thinking and his mind, he's now able to walk. And he teaches individuals how to do this. But one of the things that he says is, on average, we think around 60,000 thoughts a day, up to 90%, which are of these thoughts are repetitive, and up to 80% are negative. So you're not the only one who's having this type of thinking. And so I think the first place to start is by taking inventory of your thoughts. Pay attention to what's going on in your head, and through cognitive restructuring, try to switch some of those negative thoughts into more positive thoughts. So try to write out, what do I want to think instead? Choose again with what thought you want to be thinking. And then I think the positive affirmations are huge. So the I am statements to kind of rewire your mind and the way that you're thinking, that's more in line with how you want to be feeling and what you want to be attracting into your life.
Yep. Law of attraction, right? We become what we think about. What are some of those other, what I would call habits, the not fun things that you do to build your business that could help others, but you just know it needs to be done, and you've found through your years of experience, this one thing, just pick one of them. This one thing has been the single most important thing for your success is what?
It has been networking. I'd say once you have your product or your idea, get in the room with the right people who can help you move the needle. You never know what one conversation will lead to. And if you don't share your idea or your product with others, how do you expect it to grow? So I would say focus on the networking, get in the room. I go to a lot of different events, whether they're podcasting events or networking events, business events, speaking events, just to be meeting like-minded individuals and others who are playing in the same field, and also learn from those, have mentors, learn from individuals who have done what you're trying to do, because they're happy to help, and they explain, whether through autobiographies or through podcast episodes or YouTube videos, how they've gotten to where they are. And if they can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah. Shortcut the learning process, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think about your vision now, I mean, what are you most excited about?
Mm-hmm. I launched my podcast, Fieldswell, 3 weeks ago, and I am so grateful for all of the incredible conversations I have had because of that. And I had the idea around 5 years ago and finally got the courage to act and to do it. Thanks to my word action for 2024. What I'm most excited about is really to grow that and to keep having these inspiring conversations and to connect with individuals that maybe I don't even know about yet, maybe I'm really inspired by, but just to see really where that goes.
Yeah. I would just tell you, keep showing up every day, because it's fun and tough all at the same time. And you are my 390th interview today.
Wow.
So it's been going on for a long time, but it is amazing the people that you meet are sharing and willing to give advice to these strangers listening that they don't even know and probably will never know, right? So just keep it up. It's awesome. It's awesome. How about the fears you've put in your mind? Another question I ask all the time. How many of the fears you've put in your mind have actually blown up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
This is an interesting question, and I actually think about it often because it's something I speak on, trying to help people pay attention to the way that they're thinking. I say, whatever you're focused on, whether it's positive or negative, you're using your energy to entertain that idea. And so if you're thinking about something bad, it's almost asking for that to manifest in your life. So I could see certain situations where, say, I was in a negative thought state, that it definitely has influenced relationships or experiences. I can't say that it's manifested as bigger than I would have imagined it, but I would just say to pay attention. If you're thinking negatively, you're almost like putting out this negative energy, asking for whatever that negative thing is you're thinking about to manifest itself.
Yeah. Yeah, but rarely do they ever blow up, right? I mean, we put these things out there, and that's the point. And you've had a serious accident, right? And the negative thoughts you could have had, they didn't actually blow up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be. So When you think about, so I like to ask this question. I pulled up your Instagram here, so I'm going to have you pick a number between 1 and 10.
7.
All right. Now between 1 and 3.
3.
All right. So this was Why Wellness Matters in 2024. Join my panel at Quantum Leap 2024 this Sunday as I explore this crucial subject for business today. So that was the post that you made, and you made that on January 25th. So talk about Quantum Leap, and obviously you didn't tell me about this, but you were on a panel, looks like with some pretty amazing people. What was cool about that? What'd you learn about that, and what'd you help people learn from you in the audience?
Sure. So I met a wonderful individual when I gave my TEDx talk this last October, and his name is Mo Rock. Mo Rock is the CEO of the Los Angeles Tribune, and he's on a mission related to positive news movement and trying to promote more positive news and not to highlight news only on like business or fashion or what have you, but also on personal development. And so he started hosting panels, one of which I was invited to join. And we actually just did a second one this past week. And I think going into that, one of the things I was feeling was fear, because this was new for me to start speaking on panels. I didn't fully know what the questions were going to be. And one thing going on to this is I had memorized all of these different answers of things that I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I realized soon when I started talking that I was very robotic because I was speaking from my head and not from my heart. What's observed there is the ego over faith or love. When you're speaking from ego, you're speaking from your head. And so the biggest advice I could give in any of your work, whether you're trying to share your message with someone or share your idea for your business, is to speak from your heart, because I think that's what facilitates genuine connection.
Yeah, that transparency and vulnerability is huge, isn't it? I mean, you got to be able to share, and it's okay to get feedback that you may not like either, which is not always fun. But I think sometimes if you share your dreams, you share your goals, some of those things are going to happen and some of them aren't. And you got to be okay with the ones that don't happen, that you've already gone public with that. And that's okay. But you got to keep trying. You got to keep pushing forward and make things happen. So where do our listeners find more of Lauren Fields?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram at my name, Lauren Fields. You can find me on my website, fieldswell.com, or my podcast is the Fieldswell Podcast.
Awesome. Well, Lauren, thanks so much for being with me today on the Circuit of Success and sharing your wisdom and knowledge. And it's been great having you.
It's a pleasure, Brett. Thank you so much for having me.